Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Arkansas, this video is for you. You know, in the post-Bruin era, where one would expect to see much more harmony as it relates to our Second Amendment rights, no, we've actually seen quite the opposite. What we have seen is state legislatures all around this country who have clearly never read the Bruin opinion, never read the Second Amendment, or worse yet, have in fact read both of them and simply don't care. And that has led to an incredibly disturbing trend of horrific gun control legislation throughout the nation. But while that trend is disturbing, there is another trend which is developing that I think is quite positive, and it's one that deserves more attention. So today, let's spend a few very important minutes and talk about when your sheriffs tell the ATF to go pound sand. Okay, so the issue we are talking about today is not so much the disturbing and alarming trend of all the states throughout the country working hard and overtime to strip its citizens of their Second Amendment rights. No, it's actually a much more positive trend, which actually started in Washington State. Now, it may be one of the few things that I can honestly say I'm proud was first developed here in Washington State. So perhaps this and grunge music, and that might be about it. However, as you know, for those of you who've been geeking out on this channel here for a while, we here in Washington have suffered through not one, but two brutal legislative sessions. And the Washington State Sheriff's Association wrote to our governor, Jay Inslee, earlier this year, basically explaining that all of the gun control legislation which is kicking around in our state capital this legislative session, and there is a lot, including assault weapon bans, pre-purchasing licensing, all new types of liability for FFLs, you name it, it's there, okay? And this is on the heels of already getting a magazine ban last year. So the Washington State Sheriff's Association basically told Governor Inslee, hey, listen, these laws aren't going to solve anything, and why don't you start focusing on the real problem? It was a really well-written letter, and it was signed by all members of the Washington State Sheriff's Association. Well, not to be outdone by that, and for those of you, again, who've been geeking out on this channel, you know that the folks in Illinois, they have not only been kicked in the shin, but they have absolutely been punched in the crotch as well. And if you take a look at the absolutely horrific, diabolical plan that got their House Bill 5471 from an insurance law to a completely signed and effective piece of legislation which banned all assault weapons in the state of Illinois in less than 72 hours, because that's exactly what occurred. If you don't believe me, check out this video right here. Well, the Illinois state sheriffs basically wrote a nastygram to Governor Pritzker saying, hey, listen, these laws are violative of the citizens' constitutional rights, and we're not going to enforce them. And that really is a good segue to what I think a lot of these sheriff's associations around the country are demonstrating. And I want all of us as lawful and responsible gun owners to recognize and respect where these institutions and these organizations are coming from. And it's this, is that, yes, the number one purpose of any sheriff's department is to ensure that the community is safe. That is the goal of all law enforcement agencies, and sheriffs take that role very seriously, okay? That is their primary role. However, they have a secondary role, and it is a role that these sheriffs are beginning to show time and time again that they take every bit as serious as the first one, and that is that they are tasked with making sure that your rights as an individual citizen in this country are protected, that your rights and privileges are protected. And we're beginning to see significant pushback from law enforcement on some of these crazy gun control pieces of legislation. And let us not forget that these are the very people tasked with keeping our communities safe. These are the very people who know who commits crime, why crime is committed, and how to deter crime from being committed, okay? And do any of these state legislatures, does the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm, does anybody ever consult with local law enforcement to figure out, hey, how best to solve this problem? No. They instead have all the solutions. Well, not to be outdone by Washington, not to be outdone by Illinois, along comes the state of Arkansas. Now, This is the first video I've ever got to do on the state of Arkansas, and Arkansas is actually one of the very few states that I have yet to be able to visit in the United States. So if there's anyone down in Arkansas, I would love to come down and visit you folks. Listen, I don't know much about the politics in your state, but what I do know is I like your Sheriff's Association a whole lot, and I hope all my viewers do as well, because when the ATF decided to publish their pistol brace rule, the Arkansas Sheriff's Association wrote a rather terse announcement to the public, basically saying where they were going to come down on this issue. And they also pointed out, and this is fantastic work by the Arkansas State Legislature, that they had passed some legislation a couple of years ago that basically gave the state cover and really did an amazing job of protecting the individual right to keep and bear arms in the state of Arkansas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this letter because I think it really speaks for itself, but this gives you an idea of what the Arkansas Sheriff's Association thinks of your Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. On January 13, 2023, the ATF published their final rule on pistol stabilizing braces. It is estimated that between 3 and 40 million of these braces are currently in use all over the United States. Pistol stabilizing braces have existed in several forms for decades and have been at the forefront of popularity since 2012. Citizens all over this country have legally purchased and used these items and have done so in compliance with state and federal law. The new ATF rule would make these braces illegal and require current owners to take further steps to avoid becoming a criminal. In 2021, the Arkansas Legislature passed Act 1012, which prohibits state and local employees, including law enforcement officials, from assisting the federal government in the enforcement of firearms regulations enacted after January 1, 2021. This law helps to place a safeguard between the citizens of our great state and a federal government that would seek to trample on the most basic rights, including the right to self-defense. As an association, we believe that the Second Amendment was not put in place to protect deer hunting or sport shooting, but to protect freedom, personal safety, and all those we love and hold dear. Arkansas Code 21-1-904 says, all acts, laws, orders, rules, and regulations of the United States government that were enacted on or after January 1st, 2021, that infringe on the people's right to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution and Arkansas Constitution Article 2, Section 5, are invalid in this state, shall not be recognized by this state, are specifically rejected by this state, and shall be considered null and void and of no effect in this state. Such a federal ban that is null and void in this state under subsection A of this section includes without limitation any act forbidding the possession, ownership, use, or transfer of any type of firearm, firearm accessory, or ammunition by law-abiding citizens. The following persons shall not enforce or assist federal agencies or officers in the enforcement of any federal statute, executive order, or federal agency directive that conflicts with Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 5, or any Arkansas law. The Arkansas Sheriff's Association, having the full weight and backing of the state of Arkansas, and in accordance with that statute, is making the public statement that we do not support assisting the federal government in any way in the enforcing of this offensive affront to the rights of law-abiding citizens of the state of Arkansas. Criminals don't obey the law, and when rules like this are put in place, they seek only to criminalize otherwise law-abiding citizens. Our government needs to focus on keeping violent, repeat offenders off the street and not on how to make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. And that is a letter that was signed by literally every single member of the Arkansas Sheriff's Association. Kudos to the Arkansas Sheriff's Association. That is a bold and brash but very just statement. But the big kudos here really has to go to the Arkansas State Legislature, which back in 2021 passed Arkansas Code 21-1-904, which basically says that the federal government can go pound sand when it comes to the right to keep and bear arms in the state of Arkansas. Now, We can go into the whole federal supremacy clause and all of that stuff, and we're not going to go into those woods today. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate that when it comes to lawful and responsible gun ownership, when it comes to securing the rights of each and every one of you, it is sheriff's associations like what we see in Arkansas, like what we saw in Illinois, and like what we've seen in Washington that are really sometimes at the tip of the spear in trying to fight for your rights. And for that, we should all be grateful. Listen, you may have more questions about what's happening there in Arkansas or what's left of your Second Amendment rights. And if you do, you can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, in the meantime, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.